And joining us now in studio is Tim Hudak, leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, seeking re-election in the riding of Niagara West Glanbrook. And welcome back to TVO.
Thanks for being back on.
It's nice to see you here. We saw each other
about
24 hours ago. You did you? Well, I wanted to start there. Let's just do one question on the leaders' debate. Now that you're 24 hours later, do you have some added insight after the fact that you didn't perhaps appreciate while you were in the thick of it last night?
I mean, I've never gone through that before. I've done the debates in the riding, but it's very different, or the what would you call them? Anyway, the forums where everybody answers the question. Yeah, so it's very different. It flew by. I want to say that, like it just whizzed by. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It didn't feel nervous. It felt good. And then I guess if there's a comment about what happens after, I mean, I was there and I was listening. It actually, I thought, was a very good debate. Some of the media coverage would center on the knockout punch or would center on they got nasty. I actually don't think it did. I thought it was actually very all-around good debate that covered the top issues I'm hearing about across the province.
No, now we get nasty in this interview.
Oh, here we get nasty now. It comes later.
We save the nastiness for here. I asked Dalton McGuinty this off the top of my interview with him, and that was, no premier in 52 years has won 3 consecutive majority governments, and why did he deserve to be the first? I want to ask kind of a similar question to you, which is, no rookie leader has won a majority government in 40 years. And why do you think you deserve to be the first?
40 years, eh?
40 years,
Well,
1971.
I'm even more motivated. So it's Davis in 71.
William Davis,
wow.
71.
I want to fight for ordinary, hardworking families. I just sense that what has always made Ontario great, the strength of our middle class, the notion that the next generation will do better than the one before it, that we've fallen off those tracks, that we've lost our way. And I want to fight for families like that, kind of neighborhood I grew up in Fort Erie, Ontario, because I think we've fallen off that track.
You're 43?
43.
Are you too young to be premier?
I'm feeling older after this you go through the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had the fortune of being elected when I was 27, had the chance to sit through 3 different cabinet posts, all with a very strong sort of economic basis to them. I'm ready for the job. It's time to turn our province around. And as you said in the intro, we need a new approach. We can't stay on the course that we're on today because we've lost too many jobs. Life has become too expensive. It's time to track a different direction. Greater concentration on private sector job creation, focused government, and giving relief to average families.
Let the record show that when I said it in the intro, I was quoting you. I wasn't offering a personal opinion about that.
That's why I agree with it so much.
I want to try to find out more about what kind of a conservative you are.
Okay.
Because you did get elected at 27, part of that original Common Sense Revolution group that came in 1995. But last night at the debate, when I think the fellow from Ryerson University offered you all an opportunity to talk about how much more private sector involvement you'd allow in healthcare, frankly, I thought you all ran away from the question. What kind of a conservative are you?
Well, I guess I'm a Tim Hudak conservative. I'd say I'm a mainstream conservative, and that's why you see in our, I mean, if you want to know what I'm all about, just look at our plan and change book. So what does this mean? It means making job creation, private sector job creation, an unrelenting focus in our government. It means helping struggling families. It means making sure the services are there when we need it, but government has to mind its knitting. It has to get back to basics, health and education, and stop trying to throw money at every problem under the sun. And when it comes to healthcare, as I said in the question last night, I mean, to me, it's very personal. I've been lucky. I've been healthy my life. I'm 43. We'll stay that way for a little while longer. My daughter, not so much. And I saw how hard people work in the system, how dedicated they are. And I want to make sure we support those who are in the system who are currently run off their feet. The system was there for me when I needed it. If it wasn't, we'd be bankrupt today. And that's why I want to make sure we have a strong, universally accessible public health care system.
Your party label says progressive conservative. Would you say you are a progressive conservative?
Well, of course, I'm the leader of the PC party.
But are you
Ontario.
a progressive conservative? You know what I'm getting at here.
Well, I'm PC. I'm the PC leader, and I think what you see in our platform reflects modern, mainstream conservative thinking, which I will argue reflects the values of the majority of Ontario families.
You did talk about your family during the debate last night. You have talked about your family a lot during the campaign. Your family, I think you're the only leader with a picture of your family on your bus. And I remember one time during the campaign, you were asked, why do you do that? And you actually kind of teared up a little bit. And you said, my family means everything to me. So I want to touch on that a little bit. How do you define family?
Well, I mean, for me, it's my beautiful wife, Debbie, my daughter, Miller. It's my parents as well, and Deb's folks live in Listowel. You know, family, those who are close to you, and sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. I just think, you know this intuitively, you know this intellectually, but when you have the kid, you feel it. The sacrifices you make and the decisions you make, not based on Debbie's best interests or my best interests, you make decisions based on what's in the best interest of the family. And now I know that and understand that, and why I made it a focal point of my campaign. And the last thing I think of before I go to bed, and the first thing when I wake up in the morning, is how little Millie did during the day. And I'm going to fight for folks, because I know that families are struggling today, and that's the core unit in our society. We've got to make it stronger.
I get all that, but what I wonder is, do you represent, or do you purport to represent, those people whose family doesn't look like yours? Husband, wife, child.
Of course.
So families includes single people, includes marrieds without kids, includes gay couples? You tell me.
Absolutely. The answer is yes to all three, aside from what I believe the Immaculate Conception 2011 years ago. We all came from somewhere. We all care deeply, right? Whether it's worried about our parents, whether it's our own kids, it's our spouse, it's all family. I just find that people make decisions looking at sort of the bigger picture, how much parents sacrifice to save up for their kids' college or university, the sacrifices that adult children make to make sure that they take care of their mom and dad who took care of them before that. And that's why you see very much a focus in our campaign and what I brought to leadership on supporting that type of family decision making, giving them more freedom to make the decisions that are right for them.
It's always a fine line, and I'm not, be clear, I'm not alleging anything here, but obviously there's a lot of talk out there. It's always a fine line between knowing, between wanting to have your family with you on the campaign because they energize you and you love being around them, and obviously using them for exploitative purposes. How do you know where that line is?
We try to, I mean, Miller's started JK now. We're really proud of her. She's like a fish to water. Right? She's loving it. Every day a new book or a drawing that she did in school that she brings home. My job's very demanding. It means I travel around a lot. You don't get that time back. So if I do get a chance to have her with me on the bus, when we get to walk around at a fair, that type of stuff, I just try to grab those moments when I can. I know how precious they are to me for my own family. I don't want to miss that.
I hear you, but in politics, they're always going to say, you're parading that kid out there for nefarious reasons. You're trying to show that you're just like everybody else. You got the wife, the young kid. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure I do, but I guess to hell with what they say. Let them say what they want to say. This is what's most important to me. I mean, like many people watching your show, parents go through this. There's many days when I'm gone before Miller wakes up, and I'm home after she's long in bed. And Steve, I've taken this job. I want to be the next premier. I think I'm the right person for that job. I'm dedicated to this job 100%. But if I can grab family time when I can, because you don't get it back, especially when they're so young.
Okay. I happen to believe that sort of spouses are off limits on these kinds of things, but your Debbie is different, and you know your Debbie is different because she was a former senior advisor to Mike Harris when he was premier. So I'm going to ask, every spouse at the end of the day gives her husband advice. Doesn't matter who it is, or her husband or his wife advice. Your wife has been in a unique position to offer different advice because of the job she used to have. Does she?
No better gut check on, how do I come across? Am I being me? I felt good, just by way of example, I felt good about the debate last night. I felt I got my message out for the first time in this sort of thing. I thought Andrew did very well as well. So, and then you look to your spouse, right? I mean, how did you come across? Who's going to be very honest with you? And Debbie brings something extra to the game. She's seen this as well. She's seen many debates in her day. And to hear from her that she's proud of her husband meant a lot.
Can you tell when she's just bucking you up and when she really means it?
Yeah.
And?
She really meant it.
She really meant it last night. Okay.
Do you think she was bucking me up?
I have, I'm taking the fifth on that one. I just want to know what she thought. Let's talk some policy here. Your platform is called Changebook, as you pointed out. However, some people, I think, are legitimately asking how much change is Tim Hudak really offering? You're going to leave the HST in place on almost everything, not on home heating and hydro, I understand. Full-day kindergarten you're going to leave in place. You're going to propose to cut taxes by 5% as opposed to the 30% that Mike Harris offered, so really much more modest. So the question is, how much change is there really in Changebook?
Well, substantial change. I mean, here's the difference. We're actually to give families relief. The HST relief on heat and hydro, the debt retirement charge, income tax reduction, and also bringing in income sharing. I mean, that's a substantial tax relief for families as well. I mean, that could be anywhere from $400 to $1,400 in relief for a typical middle-class family in our province. Other big change, dramatic change in energy policy. I just fundamentally disagree with Dalton McGuinty, who thinks energy should be a social program or a way to an industrial policy, if you will. I think energy is a basic economic fundamental to people reliability and affordability. Another big change, focus in government, making sure we get the basics right instead of trying to be all things to all people. So health and education, yeah, we'll increase funding in that area. It's the right thing to do. Other areas will find 2 cents in the dollar to balance the books. And then when it comes to values issues, justice issues, a substantial difference. I believe in public safety. I believe in making things like the sex offender registry public so mums and dads know if there's a child predator released in the community in the neighborhood. Dalton McGuinty and Andrea Horvath, well, they want to protect the rights to privacy. Our idea to have prisoners give back to society in 40 hours of manual labor week. Substantial differences that I think make the other two colleagues go sideways. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it reflects the values of Ontario families.
Okay, as you well know, that's your plan, but then when the plan hits the battlefield, as they say about war, often, because stuff happens, things change. If you win, and if the economy slows down, do you still commit in stone to those 5% income tax cuts?
Absolutely. Let me tell you what.
Even if the economy slows down?
Absolutely. Let me tell you why. I mean, first of all, we've built in strong contingency plans and reserve and contingency funds into our plan. We've also used modest expectations of growth. But let me tell you why that's particularly crucial. If we want to get out of this hole, two things. You stop digging and you find savings. The other thing, you need the economy to grow. You need middle-class families to have the confidence to spend. We actually need them firing on all cylinders to close that gap. So the worst thing to do if the economy slows down is to increase taxes. That's what my opponents will do.
I'm not saying increase, I'm just saying,
well, I'll see it
what
as
about
that.
freeze?
I'll see that as a broken promise. I actually think one of the best ways to create jobs in our province are income tax reductions to stimulate the economy. Help small business if you're a sole proprietorship, a partnership. It encourages spending, particularly in the way we've structured it for middle-class families. That's actually going to help us balance the books, not harm.
Same with the tax cut on the HST.
This is basics. I mean, I actually have people coming up to me, Steve, that say, Tim, my husband has lost his job. He's a part-time job. He's happy he's got a job because he can pay the bills, but we're having a hell of a time making ends meet. I met a woman in Richmond Hill, I think I talked to her on the show last night, who says that she can't pay the hydro even though she's paid off the mortgage on her home. This is relief just to help families who are struggling, and it's happening right across our province. HST off heat and hydro, the basics.
The reason I'm asking these questions is because one of the things that you've been really critical of Premier McGuinty about is that he's changed his mind. Now, you would say he lied, he would say he changed his mind. Circumstances changed, so he changed his mind. If the circumstances change, how can you rule out changing your mind on some pretty fundamental policy here?
You build into your plan contingencies because the economy could go either direction. And I do worry that there are storm clouds on the horizon. But Dalton McGuinty seems to think it's noble that he broke his promises. He seems to think it was a noble thing to increase taxes. That's the easy way, because then you don't have to set priorities. You just ask everybody else to tighten their belt and you keep spending.
I don't think it was easy to raise taxes.
You know what?
That's a pretty tough political hit.
It is the easy way out to put off making difficult decisions, to lay it on somebody else by asking them to tighten your belt when Dalton McGuinty hasn't tightened his a single notch. In fact, as I said last night, he's increased spending by 80% when the economy grew by only 10%.
You have committed to increase health spending $6 billion over the life of your government. Is there anything that could affect that commitment?
It's the number one priority for me when it comes to our investments. As I said, I mean, it's personal, and I think it reflects the values of most of your viewers or most Ontarians. They say, what is our most crucial program that we need to protect to help our most vulnerable? I bet you they'll say healthcare. It's our part of our plan. Now, granted, we're not going to spend it the same way as Dalton McGuinty. I'm not going to fund the LHINs. We have a fundamental disagreement on the bureaucracy in the system. But healthcare spending will increase, and it's the right thing to do.
Deficit's $15 billion right now. If Don Drummond, former head of TD Bank, comes back, chief economist rather, comes back and says, health spending can't continue at the rate that you've promised. It really ought not to. We can find other savings, other efficiencies. You can actually hold the line on health spending. Would you reconsider?
Well, listen, I mean, we'll see what Mr. Drummond recommends. I think as your viewers know, he's asked Don Drummond to solve problems that Dalton McGuinty could not solve. Not sure when Mr. Drummond is going to report back. I'll look forward to his recommendations. But if I have the honor, Steve, of serving as the next Premier, I'd expect Mr. Drummond's recommendations to come within the framework I've outlined, that there will be tax relief, that we're going to balance the books, and I'd expect his decisions, his recommendations, to fall under our plan as well.
I know you don't like tax increases. I hear you loud and clear on that. However, the last time the Conservatives were in power and the Taxpayer Protection Act was in place, meaning that if you wanted to raise taxes, you had to go to a referendum to get the public's approval for it, they didn't do that. Now, I know you weren't calling the shots then, but you were a part of that government. How do we know that when push comes to shove, you wouldn't do the same thing?
This is a fundamental issue in this campaign. It's one that I've pressed, but I think it's a fundamental issue to voters as well. Because Dalton McGuinty made this about character, and he said he would not increase our taxes, and then he did. And then the second time he said, I'm not going to increase your taxes, and in 2007 he did. This is about taxes, about the economy, but it's also about character. And I fundamentally believe families need relief, and we need to stimulate our economy. We will carry through.
There is an alliance that represents Ontario's disabled community that went out and got assurances from every party, all the main parties rather, running in this election, except yours, not to go back on the gains that that community has made in making Ontario truly accessible. How come you won't give them similar assurances that the other parties are?
You know, I think this may relate to surveys, and we're focused because you get all kinds of surveys from all kinds of different groups. Our plan is actually out there. It's called Change Book, and we made sure people knew what we were going to do. But we did support, I'm not sure what the particulars are, but we did support the legislation to ensure that we had greater accessibility in the province. The Ontario PC Party supported that. We support it to this day.
You did vote for it in the I think everybody voted for it in the legislature. I think it was a unanimous vote.
Yep.
And you are still here tonight to commit to fulfilling the Ontarians with Disabilities Act provisions that will make Ontario truly accessible
Absolutely.
by 2025.
We supported it. We continue to support it.
Okay. I shouldn't give him the credit for it, but what the heck. Andrew Coyne, you know Andrew Coyne, he emailed me last night, and he said, and I didn't get a chance to get it in the debate because it just didn't work with the format, but he just said, ask them why we should believe any of them. So, okay, let me ask you now. Andrew, sorry I didn't get it in last night, but let's try this now. Why should we believe, knowing how precarious things are, knowing how the economy can turn on a dime and leave a nickel change, why should we believe any of you?
I put out my plan at the end of May. I did what I said I was going to do. I listened, I traveled across the province. We engaged probably in the biggest consultation of any political party in the history of this great province. We put out Change Book, and your viewers can see it at changebook.ca, and we've stuck to that plan. I know why people are cynical. They've got a premier right now who basically has promises with expiry dates on them. We won't, and I'll ask people for a chance to prove it. We'll stick to our plan, and we'll deliver.
Like him or not, well, I should ask you, would you acknowledge that Dalton McGuinty, whether you like it or not, has a big picture, you know, from 30,000 feet up in the air vision of what he wants Ontario to be? You may not like it, but he has a vision.
I'm going to disagree. I am going to disagree with that because I asked him last night, and he never answered. He says that increasing business taxes is wrong, and he goes after Ms. Horvath on that. And I agree. I think that will be costly to our economy if the NDP were to increase taxes. But he did that. He made the choice to increase business taxes. So why is it wrong for her but okay for him?
Well, that was then, this is now. Times have changed.
So, but you can't say he's got a big vision and then say that was then, this is now. I think he changes his views depending on political convenience. Witness the thing with the Mississauga.
Convenience or conditions?
Convenience.
I'm just asking, you know.
Let me ask you this back. The Mississauga gas plant. For 6 years, he said that was needed in Mississauga. It was the right place. He wasn't going to back down. 11 days before election campaign, he says, suddenly a condominium popped up in the neighborhood. These are decisions out of convenience, not circumstances.
Okay, let me ask you then in our last minute here. What's Tim Hudak's, from 30,000 feet up, looking down at the province of Ontario, grand vision for what you want us to do?
I want to make sure Ontario recaptures that dream that the next generation does better than the one before it. So what does that mean? That means making us the best place in all of Canada for private sector job creation, the kind of job that'll be a ticket to the middle class. Number two, rebuilding Ontario's middle class and creating those ladders people can climb up into the middle class to make it strong and confident, because you know when they're spending again, when they have that confidence and security, that powers our economy. Building new homes, cars, making repairs, that actually moves us forward. And third, we have a major paradox between high unemployment and lack of skilled trades positions. And you've seen a focus from me in this campaign in creating more skilled trade positions. In fact, 200,000 positions in carpentry, plumbing, welding, making sure a post-secondary system as well, engineers and such get into the workplace, closing that gap. It is a bizarre situation. We have high unemployment and at the same time, lack of skilled tradespeople in the economy. Those three things together will make sure that next generation does better than one before it.
Okay, we thank you for coming into TVO tonight, and as I say to all the leaders when they come here, good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me back on the show. And
Tim
great job
Hudak.
on the debate last night, by the way.
Thanks so much.